So Nintendo recently had a live stream for their Switch 2 going over a bunch of games that would be available on it, and we got a small amount of new footage for Borderlands 4. I'm going to do another video going over all of the footage we got, but a few pieces of footage we got actually allows us to see all of the different vehicles we could be expecting in Borderlands 4. And not only that, but it seems that every Vault Hunter, at least the starting 4 in Borderlands 4, are going to have their own unique vehicles. And we have now gotten a look at all 4 of them. So let's just start off by taking a look at all of these vehicles in order, because the first 2 we got in one of the reveal trailers a while ago, and then we got the last 2 ones in this most recent small amount of footage. So the first vehicle we got to see was what seems to be the kind of Maliwan Vault Hunter, the shortest one, and you can very easily tell it's her by her hair in the small amount of footage we got to see with her. And her vehicle is actually super unique and kind of fits her really well because she has those kind of tubes on the leg pieces she's wearing. That's also another reason why a lot of people think she used to be a Maliwan soldier, but her vehicle is kind of 2 pieces of a vehicle connected by a bunch of these different tubes. So the back part where you steer and where your character sits with what looks to be 2 combustors or 2 engines on it, and then you have all the tubes going out from that to a big ball on the front that seems to be some type of a power source. And that's also interesting because the one action skill we got to see from this character looks like she jumped into a mech suit for a small amount of time, and it looked like a similar device that was generating the big blast she used. So it very much seems like the tech she's wearing and using in combat is also tech she's using directly on her vehicle, so it very much fits her as a character. And the second vehicle we got to look at was also in that same trailer, and this one is for the really big and bulky character, and it kind of looks like he's using the motorcycle of Borderlands 4. It has these big pipes on the side. It's a lot smaller than the other vehicles, but it's like super compact. It has very similar handlebars to a motorcycle in real life, and it just kind of has a much more grounded feel. It almost feels like a World War II era motorcycle with some of the bigger parts and some of the lights and stuff on it. So it definitely suits him as being kind of this more armored up, more low-key type of vehicle. There's nothing like ultra futuristic or anything super special with it, but it very much does fit him, and I personally think it looks really cool. It also does kind of look like a World War II era plane as well. Now, in this most recent footage we got to take a look at the 2 newest vehicles. The first one seems to be the Siren's vehicle. We get to see her big cape on the back. She also seems to be having these kind of ear customizations, or maybe she's wearing a helmet that she puts on specifically for the vehicle, or it could just be one of the Vault Hunter customizations. But she has quite a unique vehicle, and a lot of people have been comparing this kind of to something like pod racing. We actually get to see a bunch of the animations coming out of this. On both the front wings, you have these animations coming out of it, these white bluish streaks, and then out of the back you also have that. All 3 of them seem to be some type of thrusters to actually make the vehicle move, and her vehicle definitely seems like it'd be something much more nimble. It's much thinner, it doesn't have a lot of bulk to it at all, and it just seems like this would be a fast, nimble vehicle, which does kind of fit for a Siren. And the 4th and final vehicle we got to see kind of looks a bit more like a futuristic car, but we don't actually get to see what Vault Hunter is driving it, but we've seen 3 Vault Hunters using 3 different vehicles. This seems to be the 4th Vault Hunter. It does also seem to fit him a bit. He's kind of more mech or tech inspired. We got to see 2 of his action skills. One of them, he pops down that mask display and brings out those 2 blue melee weapons, those 2 blue swords, and just starts using those. So those are kind of mech inspired. And then the other one, he put out this additional weapon, also popped down his visor display, and that weapon seemed to shoot out a big blast as well. So his overall aesthetic does kind of fit this vehicle. This vehicle seems to be kind of the most basic one because it just looks a bit like a modern supercar or something, just much more futuristic and put into the Borderlands universe. And we don't get to see as much of a look at this vehicle as compared to the others because it's kind of being blocked by the backside of it, but it does seem to be inspired by more modern vehicles. It does also even look to have a wing on the back, which is obviously something that faster vehicles would have a lot more commonly, so it does seem to very much be inspired by that. But that seems to be 4 different Vault Hunters using 4 different unique vehicles that all seem to be somewhat designed around that Vault Hunter. This also begs many questions. Are they going to have different customizations? Are you going to be able to change up the different characteristics of them, like how they handle, the different weapons they use, maybe how tanky they are? Are they all going to perform in different ways? Like the Siren super skinny vehicle, is that actually going to be faster and more nimble than, say, the Maliwan inspired character, where hers is a lot bigger, has all these cables everywhere? Seems like it would be a much less nimble vehicle. And how much customization are we actually going to have on these? And are you going to at some point be able to use the other Vault Hunters vehicles? Like maybe after you get to a certain point, maybe you get to max level or something like that, would you unlock the vehicles to be used on the other classes? I think that could be some cool customization for later into the end game. Maybe you have to get other characters and get them to max level or something, then all of your characters can use their vehicles. There's a bunch of different ways they could do this. And then on top of that, is there going to be other vehicles we can use or other variations? Because keep in mind, Borderlands 4 is going to be the first seamless open world. They're not calling it a fully open world game, but the developers have described that anything you can actually see in the world when you're playing the game, you'll be able to go there seamlessly, including the moon in the sky. So I think that means the vehicles are actually going to play a more pivotal role in the game, because if you have this massive seamless world, having vehicles are actually going to be just much more important and save a lot more time. Because in some of the previous Borderlands games, besides being in areas that you can't actually have vehicles, even in areas where you could have vehicles, you could get to the next area you're going to super quickly, and then depending on the Borderlands game, maybe you have to jump off your vehicle to go to the next area, or you still just have to go through that loading screen, so it could feel like the vehicles aren't actually doing as much as they could be. But having this massive seamless world means vehicles are just going to feel a lot better. And I'm also pretty curious if there's going to be more progression tied into vehicles than other Borderlands games, because as we just went over, vehicles in other Borderlands games weren't super useful some of the time. In certain DLCs or certain specific areas, they could be a lot more useful, especially in some of the older games. But as I mentioned, a lot of the time you're just getting in your vehicle to boost to wherever you're trying to go as quickly as possible, especially once you got into the end game, and they basically didn't have any use besides that. And while I do think there's a better chance that that's how these vehicles are going to work, they're basically just things to get you somewhere faster, I do think it would also be pretty interesting if they balanced the vehicles more into the end game and allowed you to customize them more. They could even add some amount of gearing progression into your vehicles, or if they even wanted to take it further, get small skill trees for your vehicles where you could choose maybe different abilities or different ways the vehicles function, and then maybe you could get different shielding to put onto your vehicle or different weaponry to put onto your vehicle. That stuff could definitely be really interesting and add a lot of elements to those vehicles. I just think it's probably a lower chance that that happens. That would obviously be taking development away from other systems of the game, specifically just being able to make more items or more gameplay features for the base combat, which is generally what everybody would want over that. But it definitely would be cool for vehicles to play a bit of a bigger role in some of the game, especially this one being so expansive and open. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.